Episode 1. The Shadow of the Empty Room. When I was a child, I always had a strange feeling about the old house at the end of the alley. It wasn't abandoned, the doors were always shut, the windows always locked, but no one seemed to live there. The neighbors whispered about it, saying it had been empty for years. Yet sometimes at night, people heard faint footsteps inside. One evening when I was about 12, I wandered past the house alone. The air was unnaturally cold, and the silence felt heavy, as if the entire alley was holding its breath. Suddenly, through the cracked curtains of the upstairs window, I saw it, a shadow moving slowly across the room. It wasn't the shadow of furniture or wind-blown branches. It was the clear outline of a person pacing back and forth. My heart pounded. I froze, staring up at the window, unable to move. Then, as if sensing my presence, the shadow stopped. It turned slowly until it was facing me. Though I couldn't see any features, I felt its gaze pierce straight through me. My legs gave way, and I stumbled back, running as fast as I could, until I reached the safety of my own home. That night, I told myself it must have been a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew what I had seen was real. And that was only the beginning of the nightmare that would haunt me for years to come. Sleep eluded me that night, every creak of the house echoing in my ears, reminding me that I was not alone. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist in the corners, whispering secrets I dared not hear. Each time I closed my eyes, the memory of that figure flooded back, haunting my thoughts like a relentless phantom. Days turned into weeks, but the fear never left. It clung to me, a ghost of my own making, lurking just out of sight. I remember that night clearly. The rain outside had just stopped, leaving behind a damp and heavy silence that seemed to seep through the cracks of the old guest house. I couldn't shake off the feeling from the previous night. The strange shadow in the empty room still lingered in my thoughts. I decided to walk down the corridor, hoping the quietness would calm me. But as I stepped further, the air grew colder, unnaturally cold, like the kind that chills your bones. That was when I heard it. Soft, broken whispers drifting through the hallway. The whispers seemed to weave through the air, their words indistinct yet chilling, sending shivers down my spine. I paused, frozen in place, my heart racing as the figure shifted slightly, its outline forming and reforming like smoke. A part of me wanted to run back to my room away from this inexplicable presence, but another part was drawn to uncover the truth behind the whispers. With cautious steps, I moved closer, my breath catching in my throat as I strained to listen. At first I thought it was just the wind sneaking through the wooden panels, but the whispers had a rhythm, like someone was speaking in hushed tones, almost as if they were arguing. My footsteps slowed, my ears straining to catch the words. But no matter how hard I tried, the voices were always faint, slipping away the moment I got close. I stopped in front of room number 3, the source of the sound. My hand hovered over the doorknob, heart pounding. Then, silence. The voices stopped as if they knew I was there, waiting just behind the door. Taking a deep breath, I turned the doorknob slowly, feeling the cool metal under my fingers. The door creaked open, revealing a dark room that seemed to swallow the light. My heart raced as I stepped inside, the air thick with an unsettling silence. I strained my ears, hoping to hear the whispers again, but all that greeted me was the sound of my own breathing. There was something in the room, a presence that felt alive, watching me from the shadows. Summoning my courage, I pushed the door open. The room was empty. Only the old wooden wardrobe stood in the corner, and the curtains swayed slightly, though the windows were shut tight. A wave of cold air brushed past me, sending shivers down my spine. Suddenly, the whispers returned, this time directly behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the same dim corridor stretching into the darkness. I backed away slowly, unable to explain what I had just experienced. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the whispers echoed in my head like a warning I wasn't meant to understand. And deep inside I knew this was only the beginning. Each creak of the floorboards sent my heart racing as I replayed the whispers in my mind, desperately trying to decipher their meaning. The night felt eternal, with every minute dragging on as if time itself was taunting me. I turned on the lamp beside my bed, seeking comfort in the warm glow, but the chill in the air refused to budge. Shadows seemed to creep closer, taunting me with the promise of unspoken secrets. In my mind, the echoes swirled, growing louder, a siren call drawing me back to that forsaken room. I knew I would have to face whatever lay hidden behind the wardrobe. As I stumbled back, my heart raced, bewildered by what I had just witnessed. The air grew heavy around me, thick with an unseen presence stirring a deep sense of dread within my bones. What did this spectre want? Was it a warning, or a mere reflection of my own fears? I could feel the line between reality and the unknown blurring, and that chilling gaze lingered like a haunting melody in the depths of my mind. I don't know if what I saw that night was just an illusion, or a sign of something far darker. For many nights afterward, the shadow never reappeared. Yet the feeling of being watched never left me. It was as if from some corner of the house, a pair of eyes was constantly following my every move. One evening, while staring at the dusty old mirror hanging in the hallway, I froze. Behind my reflection, faintly another face appeared, eyes dark as coal yet glowing with a strange, chilling light. The left eye seemed to belong to the living, full of vitality, while the right eye was lifeless as if from another world. Yin and yang, life and death. I tried to convince myself it was just fatigue, just my mind playing tricks. But when I turned around, no one was there. The mirror, however, still shimmered with that strange presence like a portal between realms. Since that night, my sleep has been haunted. Every dream drags me back into that corridor to those eyes, one alive, one dead, staring at me without blinking. The whispers have returned too, now clearer, closer, as though they are calling my name. And deep down, a terrifying thought has begun to grow. What if those eyes are not just watching me, but waiting for me? Each night I feel their presence lurking just beyond the veil of darkness, whispering secrets that send chills down my spine. The sound of my heartbeat echoes in the silence, urging me to escape those haunting dreams that feel so real. Sometimes I catch glimpses of that shadowy figure, a fleeting movement at the edge of my vision, but every time I turn to face it, nothing is there. I clutch my blanket tightly, hoping to shield myself from the impending dread, but the whispers grow louder, coaxing me closer to the unknown. My heart races as I wonder what waits for me in that dark abyss. With each whisper, my heart raced faster, battling the urge to flee the room. The cold air wrapped around me like a shroud, urging me to make a choice. I pressed my ear against the door, hoping for silence, but instead, the chanting grew more intense, filling every crevice of my mind. Open the door. We are waiting. I felt drawn to the sound, trapped between fear and curiosity. Even the walls seemed to pulse with the energy of secrets long forgotten, daring me to uncover the truth. The whispers no longer drifted faintly in the distance. Now they echoed directly inside my head, like someone was leaning close, breathing coldly against my ear. Sometimes the words were unclear, sometimes they formed sentences that made my blood run cold. One night, while the house was silent, I heard it clearly. Open the door. We are waiting. My hands trembled. Which door? The front door? The one in the hallway? Or the one inside the mirror? I forced myself to stay calm, telling myself it was all in my imagination. But when I covered my ears with both hands, the whispers did not fade. They grew louder, pressing against my mind almost like a chant. That was when I realized I was no longer safe even in my own home. Every corner seemed to breathe, every shadow seemed alive. The whispers followed me wherever I went. And most terrifying of all, sometimes they weren't whispers anymore. They were children's laughter. Trembling, I ventured into the hallway, my heart racing as the laughter grew louder, echoing off the walls. The once comforting sounds of home had transformed into a chilling reminder of my solitude as shadows danced around me. In the stillness of my home, every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. I stood at the doorway, peering into the darkness, wondering what lay beyond the veil of familiarity that had suddenly become terrifying. As I focused on the figure, a chilling realization washed over me. This was no innocent child. The playful smile turned sinister, morphing my childhood memories into nightmarish visions as I struggled to comprehend the danger encroaching on my sanctuary. Fear coursed through me as I struggled to comprehend the sight. Was this a manifestation of my own mind or something more sinister? Each pulse of my heartbeat echoed in the stillness, urging me to flee, yet compelling me to stay. The mirror felt like a portal, an invitation to explore the depths of what lay beyond the veil of reality. I don't know if what I saw that night was just an illusion or a sign of something far darker. For many nights afterward, the shadow never reappeared, yet the feeling of being watched never left me. It was as if from some corner of the house a pair of eyes was constantly following my every move. One evening, while staring at the dusty old mirror hanging in the hallway, I froze. Behind my reflection, faintly another face appeared, eyes dark as coal, yet glowing with a strange, chilling light. The left eye seemed to belong to the living, full of vitality, while the right eye was lifeless, as if from another world. Yin and yang, life and death. The night had fallen like a heavy curtain, and the old house seemed to breathe on its own. I tried to convince myself that the previous nights were just tricks of my imagination, but deep inside, a cold unease clung to my bones. Every creak, every rustle of the wooden floor sounded magnified, echoing like the footsteps of someone unseen. I was pacing the hallway when I felt a presence just behind the door at the end of the corridor. My hand froze over the doorknob. I could feel a vibration, not from the floor, not from the wind, but from something alive on the other side. A shadow waiting, watching. With every heartbeat, my resolve weakened, and the air thickened with tension. I swallowed hard, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination, yet the door seemed to beckon me closer. A chill ran down my spine as I took a tentative step forward, drawn to the ominous presence that lurked behind the wood. The shadows danced in the dim light, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend, and as I approached, I could feel the weight of unseen eyes boring into my back. Summoning every ounce of courage, I opened the door slowly. The room was empty, yet the temperature dropped instantly, making me shiver. My breath became visible, fogging the air in front of me. Then I saw it, a movement in the corner of my eye. A shape. A dark figure almost blending into the shadows, barely perceptible, but unmistakably human. I blinked. It vanished. I thought maybe I was hallucinating, but then came the sound, a soft scraping like fingernails against wood. Slowly, deliberately. It moved closer to me, though the room had no furniture or hallway beyond that corner. My heart pounded. I wanted to scream, but my throat had turned dry and heavy, as if the room itself was swallowing my voice. My instincts screamed at me to flee, yet my feet felt glued to the floor as if the very shadows were holding me captive. In that moment of paralyzing fear, I heard the scraping sound again, closer now, echoing in the suffocating silence of the room. I could almost feel the presence behind me breathing down my neck, the air thick with an unshakable tension. My mind raced through memories of stories told by the fire, tales of hauntings and lost souls, but none prepared me for the reality of this encounter. The darkness seemed alive, wrapping around me, and just when I thought I might break free, the figure shifted once more, drawing even nearer. The shadow stopped just short of the doorway. I could feel its gaze, though I could not see eyes. A cold pressure pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. Then came a whisper, almost inaudible, yet sharp as a knife. "You shouldn't be here." The air grew thick. I stumbled backward, falling onto the floor. The shadow didn't move, yet somehow I could feel it leaning closer, bending the space around me. The smell of damp earth filled the room like freshly turned soil, heavy and suffocating. Panic surged through me, a primal instinct screaming to escape. The whisper echoed in my mind, freezing me in place. I could hear the faintest sound of breathing, not my own but something deeper, more ancient. With every second, the shadow seemed to grow denser, pulsating like a living entity feeding off my fear. Time felt distorted as I struggled to comprehend the malign presence closing in around me. I fought the urge to scream as silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. The air crackled with tension, each heartbeat resonating louder in my ears. The whisper returned, now more clear than before, almost taunting. "You are not welcome here." My mind raced, seeking an exit, but the shadow held me captive, a predator savoring its prey. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes piercing through the darkness, stripping away my sanity piece by piece. As dawn broke, The shadows seemed to retreat, but their grip on my mind tightened. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching from the darkness, hidden yet ever present. With every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the curtains, dread filled the air around me. The room, once a place of comfort, felt like a cage closing in with each passing moment. Every time I blinked, I half expected to see that footprint grow larger, more defined. I knew I had to confront whatever lingered in the corners of my home, but the thought paralyzed me with fear. In desperation, I crawled toward the light switch and flicked it on. The shadow vanished instantly, but the impression of it lingered as if it had left a mark on the very air. My chest heaved, sweat dripping down my face. And then, I saw it. On the floor, a small dark footprint that hadn't been there before. I knew I wasn't alone. Not tonight. Not ever, it seemed. And the whispers, now louder than ever, circled in my mind, almost chanting, "Tomorrow. It will be your turn." I could not sleep that night. Every shadow in the room seemed alive, every corner a hiding place for something unseen. I stayed awake until dawn, staring at the end of the corridor, waiting, dreading, knowing the shadow was still there just beyond my vision, waiting for me to make a mistake. The days blurred together. Every step I took in the house was heavy, as if the air itself resisted me. I barely ate, barely slept, constantly looking over my shoulder. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew something in that house was alive, something that watched and waited. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the corner of the room where the shadow had appeared the night before. My hands shook as I reached for a flashlight, the faint beam barely cutting through the darkness. And then I felt it. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat. I could feel it, the air thickened, electrifying the atmosphere around me. Gathering my courage, I turned the flashlight toward the corner, my breath hitching in my throat. But as the beam of light pierced the darkness, nothing was there. An eerie chill swept through the room, sending shivers down my spine. I told myself it was just my imagination, yet I knew deep down that something was lurking just beyond the reach of the light. A touch. Cold. Ice cold, like a hand dipped in snow brushing against my arm. I jerked back, heart pounding, trying to find the source. But the room was empty. Every inch of it. My chest tightened, panic rising like a wave. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The air around me grew heavier, oppressive, almost solid. The temperature dropped so suddenly that my breath formed mist in front of my face. Then I saw movement, a shadow darker than the rest creeping along the wall toward me. It moved unnaturally fluid, like liquid darkness, with no sound except for the faintest whisper in my ear. "You should not be here." The voice echoed softly, sending chills down my spine. I froze, heart racing, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But my feet were anchored to the ground, the fear paralyzing me. I felt the cold seep deeper, wrapping around my bones, a warning more than a threat. Desperate thoughts raced through my mind. What had I stumbled upon? Was it a ghost or something far worse? Just as I was about to turn and flee, the shadow lunged forward, and in that moment I realized that this was no ordinary encounter. I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed. My flashlight skittered across the floor, casting frantic shadows. And that's when I saw it. An elongated hand, skeletal, stretching from the corner, reaching for me. Its fingers were impossibly long, blackened ice forming around the tips. I tried to push it away, but there was nothing to push against. The hand hovered over me, inching closer, wrapping the air around me like chains. Every breath I took burned, my pulse raced, and I realized this was no ordinary haunting. I felt paralyzed, caught in some unseen web of terror, unable to scream or flee as the icy grip of fear tightened around my chest. My heart pounded in rhythm with the haunting whispers echoing through the room, taunting me with promises of despair. Suddenly, a chill swept through the air, and I understood. The hand was a harbinger of something worse than mere ghosts. It heralded an ancient darkness that fed on helplessness and dread. Then as quickly as it came, the hand withdrew. The room went silent, except for my own ragged breathing. My flashlight lay shattered on the floor, and I sat there trembling, unable to move. I knew one thing for certain: the house had claimed a part of me. and the next night it would come back, not to whisper, not to watch, but to touch again. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in the corner clutching my knees, staring at the darkened corner where the hand had appeared, and in the darkness I swore I saw the faintest outline of a face, pale, hollow, smiling. The hours dragged on, each tick of the clock echoing my racing heart. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against me, and every creak of the house seemed to mock my fear. Then without warning, a chill swept through the room, causing the hairs on my neck to stand on end. I was not alone. The outline grew sharper, more defined, as if it were stepping out of the shadows, and I could barely breathe as panic threatened to consume me. By the 7th night, I had stopped trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. The house had its own life now. Every creak, every draft of wind, every shadow that flickered along the walls carried intent. Something was watching me, learning me, shaping me. It started quietly, a faint scratching at the window across from my bed. At first, I thought it was the rain, or perhaps a branch brushing against the glass. But the sound didn't match the weather, or any branch I knew. It was deliberate, measured, almost patient. Every night I listened, each scratch pulling me deeper into a web of fear and curiosity. I could feel the air around me change, thickening with a presence I couldn't escape. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just an old house settling, or the wind playing tricks. Yet there was something undeniably intentional in that sound, a rhythm that echoed my own heartbeat, a call to confront whatever lay beyond. I got up to check. The hallway was empty. The air felt thicker than usual, each breath heavy like inhaling stone. I looked out the window. Nothing. Just the alley below, drenched in moonlight. Then I heard it a scream. Piercing, bone-chilling. Not human, not fully. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, vibrating through the glass, through the floor, through my skull. My knees buckled, and I sank to the ground, covering my ears, but it didn't stop. The window cracked slightly at the bottom, seemed to ripple like a reflection in disturbed water. And then I saw it, a shadowy figure pressing against the glass head, cocked at an unnatural angle, lips stretched in a silent scream. Its eyes, one dark, one glowing, locked onto mine. Yin and yang. Alive and dead, and it was aware I scrambled backward, tripping over the bedpost, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The figure moved inhumanly fast, its scream now silent but audible inside my mind, vibrating every nerve, echoing in my chest. I felt the cold, skeletal fingers of the air itself claw at my skin, dragging me toward the window. I stumbled to the door and flung it open, desperate to escape, but the hallway had changed. It stretched further than it should, bending impossibly, shadows crawling along the walls, whispering, laughing, chanting. Panic surged through me, my heart racing as I realized I was trapped in a nightmare. The walls seemed to close in, and the air thickened with a chilling dread that clawed at my sanity. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to move forward, each step heavy with trepidation. As I ventured deeper into the twisted corridor, the whispers grew louder, their sinister tones wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. I needed to escape, to wake from this horrifying illusion that felt all too real. I backed into my room, slamming the door shut. The window stopped moving. The scream vanished, leaving only the oppressive silence. But when I dared to glance again, the figure's eyes were still there, watching, waiting. I couldn't sleep. Not that night, not any night after. Every window, every reflective surface became a portal. And the screaming figure had shown me one undeniable truth. It could reach me, even when I thought I was safe. It was in the corner of my eye that I caught the slightest flicker, a movement that made my heart race. Shadows danced along the walls like whispers of dread, and I felt it there, a presence that was more than just a trick of the light. Each creak of the house echoed in my ears, reminding me that safety was an illusion. How long could I hide from the truth that it was always near, always watching? Time lost all meaning as I lay there wrapped in a cocoon of dread. The whispers seemed to grow stronger with each tick of the clock, taunting me, reminding me that escape was futile. With every gust of wind rattling the window, I felt my resolve weakening, and the line between reality and nightmare began to blur. It wasn't just a figment of my imagination. It was a dark understanding that no matter where I went, it would follow. Panic surged through me and my mind raced with questions about what had happened in this place. Unearthly whispers seemed to echo in the corners, pulling at the edges of my sanity. I stepped closer to inspect the stain, my heart pounding louder than the silence surrounding me. Why was it here? Who had suffered in this forsaken room? The weight of the history pressed down on me, and I felt as if the house itself was watching, waiting for my next move. By the 8th night, I could no longer pretend I was safe. The house had claimed me, and its presence pressed down on every corner of my mind. Each sound became amplified, each shadow alive. I moved cautiously through the hallways, my flashlight flickering as if warning me to stop. That night, I entered the old dining room. The air was thick and heavy, carrying the metallic scent of something long decayed. The walls were bare except for one section near the far corner. My heart skipped a beat. There it was, a smear of dark, thick blood running down the wall as if it had been freshly painted. The smell hit me nauseating and sharp. I stepped closer, and the blood seemed to shift, forming patterns, shapes, faces, hands reaching out. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a chair. Then I heard a soft scratching sound coming from inside the wall itself. I pressed my ear against the cold plaster. "We are inside you." The words were unmistakable, and yet they didn't come from the air or the wall. They were inside my head. My chest tightened and I fell to the floor, my mind screaming for relief, for escape, for anything to make this end. Then movement, slow, deliberate from the blood on the wall. A hand appeared, blackened and skeletal, stretching outward. It left streaks of fresh red as it moved. I froze, unable to breathe. The hand hovered in the air, inches from my face, as if testing me, gauging my fear. I backed away, sliding against the wall. The hand retreated, but then the voices multiplied. Whispers, laughter, screams, all mixing together, echoing in every direction. The blood began to crawl, thickened, forming words. "You cannot hide. You belong to us." Panic overtook me. I ran through the hallway, the whispers following the walls, pulsating as if alive. I stumbled into the corner of the living room, gasping for breath. And then I saw it. Every reflective surface, the mirrors, the windows, even the metallic doorknobs reflected countless pairs of eyes staring at me. Some human, some not. One left eye dark and hollow, one right eye glowing with a strange fiery light. Yin and yang. Frozen in fear, I felt the weight of their gaze pressing down on me, as if they were pulling me into their world. The laughter grew louder, intertwining with my racing heartbeat. I staggered backward, desperately searching for an escape, but every reflection mirrored my panic, amplifying it. Each eye seemed to hold a secret, a story of darkness waiting to unfold. I turned, darting towards the nearest door, every step echoing like a drum in the suffocating quiet. But the whispers intensified, beckoning me back, reminding me that I could never truly leave. I understood then. This was no longer a haunting. It was a possession. Every step I took, every breath I drew, it was marking me, claiming me. I spent the rest of the night huddled on the floor, eyes locked on the blood-streaked wall, listening to the whispers, praying for dawn. But deep down, I knew the house would not let me leave unscathed. As the first light of dawn began to creep into the room, I felt a flicker of hope, yet the oppressive weight of the house still lingered. I could hear those faint whispers growing louder, almost as if they were warning me of the darkness that loomed behind every corner. Each passing moment felt like a battle between my will to escape and the unseen force that sought to hold me captive. I stood at the doorway, my heart pounding in my chest, torn between the urge to flee and the sinister pull of the darkness within. With each breath, I felt the house tightening its grip on me, urging me to stay, to succumb to the terror that it so eagerly offered. Yet as I grasped the doorknob, a surge of defiance ignited within, pushing me to take that first step into the uncertain light. By the 9th night, I had lost all sense of time. The house had become a maze, its walls shifting corridors, stretching impossibly, shadows crawling in places they shouldn't be. Sleep was a distant memory. The whispering, the laughter, the footsteps. They were constant. I wandered through the hallway, flashlight trembling in my hands. The air was thick, almost solid, pressing against my chest with every breath. Each step I took echoed unnaturally, repeating, overlapping, until I felt like I was walking in circles. Just ahead, a door creaked open, inviting yet foreboding. My heart raced as I approached each footfall, a silent plea for courage. The air thickened further, and my instincts screamed to turn back, yet an unseen force urged me forward. I reached for the doorknob, anticipation and dread intertwined in a suffocating embrace. As the door swung wide, a chilling sight greeted me. The room was shrouded in darkness, its secrets cloaked under dusty sheets. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me, each corner harboring grotesque shapes that seemed to breathe with life. My pulse quickened, the whispers growing louder, wrapping around my mind like a sinister melody, beckoning me deeper into the heart of the unknown. Then I heard it, a low hum vibrating through the floorboards, through my bones. I followed it instinctively, despite the terror crawling up my spine. The hum led me to the attic stairs, narrow, steep, barely lit. My hands gripped the railing as I climbed each step, groaning under my weight. At the top, I froze. The attic was not empty. Shadows twisted unnaturally, forming shapes I could barely comprehend. And there, in the center of the room, a circle of light flickered over something horrifying. Bodies. No, not quite. Silhouettes writhing and faceless, trapped in the floorboards, whispering my name. Panic surged within me as I stumbled back, my heart racing. The whispers grew louder, echoing off the walls with an urgency that made my skin crawl. I wanted to flee, but a force pulled me forward, closer to the circle of light. I squinted into the brightness, trying to discern the shapes, their pleas drowning out all thoughts of escape. Memories flooded my mind, faces I once knew now twisted beyond recognition, calling out for help from the depths of darkness. I stumbled back, trying to escape, but the stairs stretched endlessly. The attic seemed infinite, the roof arching impossibly high. Every reflection I passed, mirrors, old glass bottles, even my own eyes, showed a different version of me, twisted, pale, screaming silently. And then I felt it hands. Cold, icy, pressing against my shoulders from all directions. I couldn't see who or what held me. My legs gave out, and I fell to the floor. The whispers turned into voices, chanting together, overlapping. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. Only the oppressive weight of silence enveloped me. The voices grew louder, a cacophony of sorrow echoing through the hollow space, filling me with dread. Panic surged as I struggled against the unseen force holding me down, my heart racing as I felt the icy grip tighten. In that moment, an ethereal figure emerged from the shadows, its presence commanding and cold. I felt my breath catch as I gazed upon the shrouded being, its face forever hidden, yet radiating an aura of ancient sorrow. Desperation coursed through me, and I reached out my hands, trembling, hoping to break free from this nightmare that trapped me. "You cannot leave. The night will never end." I clawed at the walls, trying to find the attic door, but the room shifted, changing with every movement. Panic overtook me. Time had no meaning here. Seconds stretched into hours and hours into eternity. Finally, I found a small window, cracked and dirty. I climbed toward it, desperate for escape. Outside, the alley looked normal, rain-slick and quiet, but I couldn't step through. Invisible chains held me back, and in the shadows behind me I saw them, countless eyes, dark and glowing, watching, waiting. The fear clawing at my insides intensified. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass, trying to make sense of what lurked just beyond my reach. The rain drummed steadily against the pavement, masking the whispers that slithered through the night. I could feel the weight of their gaze, 1,000 unseen stares dissecting my every move. My heart raced as I considered my options, but there was no clear escape. The shadows loomed larger, their intentions unclear but undeniably menacing. I screamed, but the sound was absorbed by the house. I was trapped, suspended between fear and reality, knowing that the night truly would never end unless I confronted whatever had been following me all these nights. With every heartbeat echoing in the silence, I took a step forward, feeling an unseen presence urging me on. The darkness seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if waiting for me to make my move. Each step felt heavier than the last, but I knew I couldn't turn back. Fear clashed with resolve as I reached for the doorknob, ready to face whatever lay beyond. As the door swung wide, a sudden rush of cold air engulfed me, bringing with it whispers of secrets long buried. In the center of the room, a source of light beckoned, drawing me closer to the heart of the mystery. The artifact shimmered with an alluring energy, its presence both captivating and terrifying. I felt an unexplainable pull, as if it held the answers to all my fears waiting for me to unlock its secrets. My fingertips brushed against the artifact, and a blinding light enveloped me, transporting me into a whirlwind of memories. Faces flickered in the mist, revealing forgotten truths that connected my past to the darkness I had been fleeing. By the 10th night, I had no strength left. The house had consumed every ounce of my courage, every shred of hope. The whispers, the shadows, the cold touches, they had become a part of me. And yet I knew I had to face it. One last room remained. The final room. I entered cautiously. The door creaked ominously, as if warning me to turn back. The air was thicker than ever, almost solid, pressing against my chest, making each breath a battle. The room was small bare except for a single mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. I could feel my heart racing as I stared into the reflective surface. A chill coursed through me, memories swirling like a tempest. What secrets lay behind that glass? Were the whispers urging me to step closer, or warning me to stay away? As if summoned by my fear, the mirror began to darken, revealing shadowy forms reaching out their mouths, opening in silent screams. I felt trapped in a moment that stretched endlessly, the weight of their sorrow pressing down on me. Trepidation coursed through me as I stepped into the corridor, the air heavy with foreboding. The walls seemed to breathe their cracks, whispering secrets of those who had come before, each echo resonating with the weight of despair. Before me, a figure formed from the very shadows, a silhouette that seemed to pulse with dark energy, drawing me closer, inviting me to uncover the truth hidden within the depths of this sinister place. I approached it. My reflection appeared normal at first, but then it shifted. Behind me in the reflection, I saw the eyes, yin and yang, one alive, one dead, staring directly at me. And then the shadows began to gather, coalescing into figures, their whispers merging into a single voice. Welcome. You belong here. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Cold. Skeletal. I spun around. Nothing. But the mirror showed more. More shadows, more hands, more faces screaming silently, twisting in ways impossible for flesh and bone. I realized then that this was the source. The final room wasn't a place, it was a doorway, a gateway. Every step I had taken, every shadow I had seen, every whisper I had heard, it had led me here. I wanted to run to smash the mirror to escape, but the room had no corners, no edges. It expanded as I moved. The floorboards stretched into infinity, the walls pulsated, breathing alive. The shadows reached out, their icy fingers grazing my skin. The whispers became words clear and final. You cannot leave. This is your place now. And then in a moment of sheer terror, the mirror shattered. The shards floated mid-air, reflecting countless versions of myself, each one twisted hollow, screaming silently. The shadows surged forward, enveloping me. I felt my body cold, numbing, my vision fading. In that moment, the boundaries of reality blurred, and I became one with the shadows, lost forever in this twisted realm. I drifted through endless voids, each shard of glass revealing moments of who I once was, now fading into obscurity, forever trapped within the echoes of despair. Memories collided in chaotic spirals, whispering secrets of what was lost. Each echo a reminder of the life that slipped through my fingers now, a mere shadow in the abyss. But before darkness took me completely, I heard one last sound, a whisper closer than ever right in my ear. The end is never the end. We will see you again. I awoke the next morning outside the house, drenched in sweat, the alley silent, empty. The door was shut, the windows locked, and yet I knew deep in my bones that the house had not released me. The shadows, the whispers, they were still there, waiting, watching, always. I walked away, heart pounding, but I could feel it, a presence following me, unseen, inevitable. And from that day on, every shadow I passed, every mirror I glanced into, I saw the eyes, yin and yang, alive and dead. And I knew my nightmare had only truly begun. Every night the whispers grew louder, taunting me, reminding me of what waited just beyond the veil of reality. I tried to escape, to forget, but the memories clung to me like a second skin, relentless in their pursuit. Every corner of my home felt alive, each creak of the floorboards a reminder of unseen watchers. The air thickened with dread as I began to question my own sanity. Was it all in my mind, or was the universe conspiring to draw me back into the shadows? As I lay awake, trembling beneath the covers, a chilling thought slithered through my mind. Escape was not an option. I was tethered to this fate.